You own a business? You're on a journey. You own a business in 2022? Wow Business knows that journey just got a whole lot more interesting. You might close a sale like this, or like this, and you need to connect with your team.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Is my camera on? Can you hear me? Can everybody go on mute?
Without even leaving home. And if you're excited to keep your business moving, head to switch-to-wowbusiness.com to learn about fast internet speeds, 24/7 US-based support, a price lock guarantee, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and an offer you don't want to miss.
For a limited time, fall into savings with 1 gig of business internet for the incredibly low price of only $99.99. We'll even throw in 4 months of free service, free installation, and a free modem to help make the switch easier. Learn more at switch-to-wowbusiness.com.
Offer for new customers with a 2-year agreement subject to change. Prices do not include taxes, fees, and equipment charges. Restrictions apply. Switch to wowbusiness.com.
Right now, Amazon is offering some amazing extra perks that come with a job offer. If you start a warehouse job, you can get a $1,000 sign-on bonus. That means you start earning a paycheck right away, plus you get extra cash to use before the holidays. Applying is so easy, you don't even need an interview. It's never been so rewarding to start an hourly job that's close to home. So what are you waiting for? To join the team today, visit amazon.com/sign-on bonus. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
It didn't listen to me. It walked out of the thicket. It turned around and looked at me.
They looked up, and in this tree, there was a monkey man. And the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away.
And suddenly, they're right in front of the car. He slams on the brakes and manages to stop, and he's skidding because it's like quite, gravelly. And for about a second and a half, they just stood there because they don't know where to go, and you tell them panicking. They're like nothing, and their face is like twitching.
Welcome back to Bigfoot Society, a podcast where we focus on cryptids, the strange, and the unexplained of this world. If you've got a story or something weird to share, send an email over to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now, on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, I've got the privilege of having Mr. Bryce Johnson back in the studio. How's it going, Bryce?
Good, Jeremiah. How are you, man?
Dude, I'm doing great. It's been a while since I last got to talk to you with the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team. It was a few years ago, I think, but I wanted to have you on to chat with you a little bit about a movie that you were able to be involved with almost coming up to 10 years ago. It's not quite there yet, but we are getting there. But I
think I know which movie you're referring to, but I'll let you continue. Yes.
Yeah. In this community, famous Willow Creek, everyone loves the Willow Creek movie. It's talked about all the time. In case there's a few listeners that might not know who you are you're involved with the most recent Bigfoot TV show, Expedition Bigfoot, and you are in that team. You're also on the podcast, one of the hosts of the podcast Bigfoot Collectors Club, which a lot of people in the community like as well. You guys talk about cryptids. You have cool people on. It's a very good podcast. But what other things might you want the listeners to know about yourself, Bryce?
Well, I think that's a perfect start, because I would imagine most of your listeners are interested in the subject of Bigfoot, and the catalyst for sort of my Bigfoot career is now was that film Willow Creek that I shot with Bobcat Goldthwait in 2010, and that really kicked off a whole adventure for me, because it was because of that film that I met my co-host, Michael McMillan, on the Bigfoot Collectors Club. He had just watched that, and it sparked a fascinating conversation with us both. And that's wanted us to start our podcast, the Bigfoot Collectors Club. And then it was really from that, I got to talking with a few producer friends of mine who wanted to create a Bigfoot show using the latest technology and a team of boots on the ground scientists and researchers. So that's how all that really got started. I'm about as surprised as anyone, I think, that I've ended up here, but I'm really lucky and grateful to be in the position that I am.
That's awesome. Let's take it back first, even, further back than Willow Creek's. Well, was there a certain point in your life where have you always been into like the cryptids and Bigfoot and things like that? Or was it just like you were approached out of the blue one day by Bobcat to star in this movie?
Well, it's a little bit of both, because I've been fascinated with, I guess, what we would term the paranormal ever since I was a young boy, when I thought I might have had an encounter with some yellow-eyed, demon-looking entity in my bedroom window when I must have been maybe 5, 6, or 7. That sent me on a path. And from then forward, whenever that, bookmobile came into town or the library, it was books about ghosts. It was books about the Loch Ness Monster, and of course, books about Bigfoot that absolutely fascinated me. And it wasn't, I think, until I saw Leonard Nimoy in it escapes me, where he talked about the Patterson Gimlin film, In Search of.
Exactly.
But I saw that, and when I glimpsed that film for the first time, it sort of concretized in my mind that perhaps there's something to these entities or creatures that really aren't supposed to exist. And so, and to the second part of your question, which is funny enough, true as well. I had done a movie previously with Bobcat called Sleeping Dogs Lie, but I was just up in Canada with my family, and he called me out of the blue one summer, and he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing a found footage Bigfoot movie. Do you know anything about Bigfoot?" And I said, "Bob, you got the right guy on the phone." And we just started talking, and little did he know I was so passionate about the subject, and that was it. That sealed the deal. We went right into production on Willow Creek, and what started out as a relatively small script. It was really the germ of an idea, because Bobcat Goldthwait, for those who aren't familiar in your audience, he was a big comedian in the 80s, and he sort of rose to fame with the Police Academy franchise. But a lot of people don't know is that he's really this auteur director, and he really wanted to leave acting behind and focus on his writing and directing career. He did that with some great movies. Started out with Shakes the Clown, and then of course Sleeping Dogs Lie, which we went to Sundance with. That's how I met him. And then he wanted to grow as a filmmaker, and the idea of a found footage sort of bothered and scared him. It bothered him because the found footage films that he liked seemed to him like someone always picked up the camera and edited it in like a bay or something, and it came out like, oh well, who's the creep that picked up this camcorder and made a movie out of it? And so that bothered him. He saw an opportunity there. And a fascinating thing about Willow Creek is I think there's just over around 200 cuts, which in film is absolutely rare. I mean, so they're usually in the thousands. And I hope I have those numbers right. Anyway, there was hardly any cuts in the film. If you watch it, you can rarely see them. And I'm getting off point here, but let me get back. So where was I?
Well, you totally answered my question, which is it's quite evident that you do have, from an early age, you were, interested in the paranormal, and then you started to get into Bigfoot, as most of us did. And at this, that are around, I think we're close to similar ages where, you've got Leonard Nimoy in Search of, that generation. Maybe we caught the reruns, but that's all right, and then talking about how, Bobcat was able to approach you. I do want to do a little footnote because so the cool thing about Bigfoot Society is we have a lot of there's a lot of families that listen to this. And I really want to say that Willow Creek is a horror film. So there is, if you're listening to this, little ears, probably not the right time to watch this movie, maybe later on in life, because there is, there is harsh language, there is nudity, but it is, one of the more famous movies in the Bigfoot culture. So it's important that we talk about it, right?
Well, I love that, and I'll add to your footnote.
Yeah, thank you.
The only nudity appropriately is mine. It was my backside. So if you
no,
can,
it's
if
not.
You can, oh, is that right? There's more. Oh my God, that's right. Never
At the
mind.
very end.
You know what? Spoiler alert territory. If you haven't seen Willow Creek, I'll stop there. But yes, you're right.
Sorry to call you out, but it's a pretty big one. Good times. So, had you been to Willow Creek before this movie? I wanted to ask that after watching it.
Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer is no.
Wow.
I had always heard about the place, and when Bobcat and I started talking about how he wanted to film it in the location in and around Bluff Creek. So just to give a little primer, the film Willow Creek really was sort of a love story to Bigfoot, if you will. It was I pretty much played the character of Bobcat. It's this guy who is in search of something fantastical, and he, just wanted to sort of pay homage to this sacred ground where Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin shot the PGF film in 1967. So it's really like a visiting of a sacred site. And of course, along their journey, they, maybe they get confronted with something they were looking for all along. Anyway, it's a horror film. You'll figure it out.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, you'll figure it out pretty quick. Yeah.
Right. But that was the premise, and really from there he just wanted to create this compelling sort of horror story involving two people. And I think that's one thing I hear about Willow Creek so much is that we established these characters for so long. I think that you really get to start a feel for them, and then when they ultimately come to their demise, however that may be, you sort of you're invested at that point. And there was a time shooting the movie when we had arrived at Willow Creek. We were in the China Museum.
Okay.
And the China Museum is right in Willow Creek, and it harbors the actual sort of first Bigfoot museum there ever was, because it was run by a man named Al Hodgson, is the guy's name. And this is sort of the precipice of where Bigfoot lore came out of. Anyway, we were in there and we were filming some stuff. And they allowed us to film in there, but ultimately they didn't want to use it in the film. So there's a scene in there in Willow Creek that you'll never even see. But we came out of there, Alexi and I, and there was a couple that approached us and they said, "Are you guys on your honeymoon?" And we went, no, we're actually filming a movie. And they're like, "Oh my God, we thought you guys were so in love and on your honeymoon." And we knew right then and there that we had established this connection, Alexi and I, because we road tripped from Los Angeles to Northern California, talking about the movie and the ideas, and on the drive up. So we were able to of make this bonding connection with all three of us, and we just had the most fun. I think we shot this movie in less than 10 days, and I'm not even going to tell you how much we shot it for. But we were passionate artists, and we set out to create something great, because I'm sure your listeners may know, there's only a handful of what I would deem a pretty good Bigfoot movie. The rest of them there's a lot of
man. Yeah, that's a true statement. Yeah, they can get pretty interesting for sure.
There's quite a few. And so we really set out to make something for the community. And when we arrived in the town of Willow Creek, there was a buzz. Visiting Stephen Stroyford at Bigfoot Books, and Cliff Barrickman was around there looking up prints and stuff, checking out the town, and the whole town was a buzz. And they were they were really kind of unsure about Bobcat, and I think once they started to talk to him and see the film he was making, they opened up a little bit.
The thing I love about Willow Creek, and I'm going to be totally honest, Bryce. So I am not a horror guy. I tap out at the movie Signs. If you remember the movie Signs, right?
Love.
Okay.
Signs.
But I was like, man, I've got the opportunity. I want to talk to Bryce about this. This is a great opportunity. So you got to man up and you got to watch Willow Creek. So I just watched it a few days ago and I was like, oh, this is so good. And the thing I loved about it is that it's not just actors in the movie. You also have, there's a few people in there like Tom Yamarone, Steven Stroufert. I always mess up that name. Sorry, Steven, he's going to get me. But you have these actual Bigfoot focused individuals in your movie, which is very cool and adds an extra layer to it for the people that are super into this subject.
Well, we were really just trying to blur the line. And I'll remember, speaking of Steven, who I admire so much, when we set up in his shop Bigfoot Books and the camera there, he was like a tiger kind of waiting, like, what are we doing here? Who is this guy interviewing me? But, it wasn't until I started to, I guess, reveal some of my passion about the subject. He opened up a little bit, and it ended up being a great scene in the movie and stuff. And you're right, there are a few people and guys like Tom Yamarone who, when Bobcat found out, he sang songs about Bigfoot. Bobcat's just like, we're filming you. You know that, right?
It's so good. It's so good. There's a few, let's just say there's legends and lore around Willow Creek. And maybe there's a few, maybe I could bring them up and maybe you could dispel if they're true or not. Sure. I've heard a rumor that in the credits of Willow Creek, it was the song Roger and Bob was supposed to be covered by another band, but it didn't happen. Is that true?
Oh yeah, that's true. I wonder how much I can reveal. And if your fans know a little bit about, I'll just reveal it. I think it might be fine. For those of your fans who don't know, Bobcat Goldthwait used to open up for Nirvana. So he had he had formed a friendship with the band, and he has a friendship with Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. And, and I guess they were talking and Bobcat had passed the idea around. Wouldn't it be great if Grohl covered this song? But, having Tom Yamarone, who is such a legend in the community itself, it worked out so much better that way. And I'm so glad for that.
Okay, very cool. There's a rumor that always goes around that's at least one of the interactions with the town people in Willow Creek are actually like, it's not scripted. Is that true or false?
No, that's true. We spoke to multiple people who weren't actors, and they signed releases to be in our movie. And I think added that sort of, it just gives it that sense that like we are entering that town and these are real people, because at the end, there's only maybe, I think, not to give anything away, other than Alexi and I, maybe one or two other actors. But,
sure. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we used everything we could. Like we really did, we were just using the people in the town. And it was funny. I remember speaking with the, I think she was the, it's in the film. It's the lady, she ran the tour guide center, which was really just
when you're in front of the statue.
Yeah. Which is really just a candle booth, and I remember going, and she, trying to get her to talk about the subject. And finally I got her and she goes, oh, all that Bigfoot stuff. And I got, here she is, the town representative. And she's just kind of like, oh, whatever, get her out of here. But I found that funny.
So that was a legitimate interaction. That's funny.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The part when the guy comes up to you and the gas station is in the background and he's kind of like, hey, I wouldn't do that. Is that scripted or was that real?
That is, that is Timmy Pearson,
Okay.
who, shout out to Timmy. He was basically, the producer on the film, as you'll see in the credits, is Amy Pearson, who we just love and adore. And her brother, Timmy, it was an actor, and he also worked as a PA on the film. So he was
That's
making
funny.
us coffee and I remember. So here's a great little thing. So he also plays the ukulele.
Okay. Yeah. That song rocked.
And Bobcat's like, write a song on your ukulele. And he's like, okay, great. And he's like, I need some lyrics. And he goes to me and Bryce, tell me about the PGF film. So I just started sort of spitting out some fun facts.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of those fun facts made his song, the lyrics in his song, about like, I think 352 frames of magic or whatever, or however the lyrics go. But it was great. I can't just tell you how much fun it was filming this movie. And, in less capable hands than Bobcat Goldthwait, this would have came out like a bad student film.
Okay.
And, but the vision of what he wanted to accomplish and the commitment of Alexi and I to just everything about it is just what I think makes the film special. And, you mentioned it earlier that people sort of like the film, and I consider myself someone who's in the Bigfoot community now too. And I'm proud that this film is there for people to enjoy, so it's one of my great accomplishments, I think. That's in 25 awesome. Years of doing this business. So I'm really lucky to have done it. It's led me to so much fun stuff like my podcast and Expedition Bigfoot. Totally. None of that would have happened had it not been for that small little film.
It's crazy to think about, isn't that? Yeah, probably not. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Another thing I've heard is near the end of the movie, there's a lot that happens in a certain campsite. You're inside a tent. You start to hear things. You start to think of the Bigfoot things that you would hear if you're going out. You start to hear all that. Was that canned, or was that done by certain people with the production, or you have knocks, you have howls? Any information about how all that went down?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I will divulge it all.
Yeah, dude.
So, for those who don't know, I mean, we wanted to film right in the actual place. We didn't get to the actual film site because actually in 2010, there was still a little debate as to exactly where that was. There was a few people who knew, but anyway, so we filmed that scene in a place called Louse Camp. And, and so that's where we had that incredible tent scene. And yes, Bobcat had a whole charcuterie board of things he wanted to accomplish that night, sounds and wood knocks. And we had a great guide with us, a man by the name of Robert Leiterman. His son, I believe his name is Francis. I hope I get that. It doesn't matter. He was there with us as well. And so they not only served as sort of, he's an ex-forest park ranger, I believe. He is. And so he was there to sort of serve as safety and just give us knowledge. And Bobcat's like, hey, you want to, not to give too many secrets away, you want to help us make some noise in the night? And Robert was like, of course, and so one thing I do want to note though is this film really rests on what's known as the tent scene. And the tent scene is, I believe it's about a 19-minute long, no cuts. Okay, I started the camera and I stopped the camera. It's a 19-minute long, just suspenseful scene. And I remember Bobcat just saying, he's like, I have something I want to set out to try. And I just want to put the camera in the tent with you. And then I just want to just see what happens as the sounds of the forest come alive. And Alexi and I were like, okay. He didn't tell us he was going to be throwing rocks at the tent, So we did 3 takes of that. 3. And after the first one, I was like a little emotional. He's like, that's good. That's good. He's like, Bryce, if you could cry less, that would be great.
That would be great, Bryce. Just dial it back.
I'm traumatized. And so that second take was the take that we took. And that took all night to do those 3 takes. And when we went to bed at around before the sun came up, 3 or 4 in the morning, we felt that we didn't know what the hell we had just done, but we felt like something special had happened. And so many people tell me, I won't go camping because of that tent scene. And I'm very proud of that.
It's rough, dude. It's a rough scene, man. I went on an expedition in Iowa with Tate this summer. And if I had seen that movie before, that would have been a whole different experience weekend, man.
Yeah.
It would have been nuts.
That's one thing it really sort of does well, is it puts you in this place of what some of these eyewitnesses report when they're out camping and their campsite is invaded by these creatures and rocks are thrown and they can hear them moving around the campsite. It's absolutely terrifying. And what else would it be? But I think, but it's also exhilarating, right? Because that's what you're there to do. So it's a great scene. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Were there any things that got cut out of the movie that were like, you're looking back on it, you're like, I guess you've mentioned maybe a few, but any others, cut out things that come to mind that didn't quite make it?
I can't really think of any. I mean, no, there's no, other than that scene that took place in the China Museum. That was the only thing I think that we really sort of gouged out. There might have been stuff we sort of threw, maybe an interview or two we didn't use. I'm not quite sure.
Sure.
But I'm sure there was a lot of film to edit. Bobcat did. I forget the gentleman's name who edited the movie, but that's my mistake. I should look him up. Anyway, but yes. So
no sweat. How much of the movie did Bobcat say? How much was ad-libbed between? Did he just? There's a part in the tent scene where it's a very pivotal, emotional moment between you and I'm sorry, I can't remember the other character's name.
Alexi Gilmore, and I forget the name of her character.
That's right.
Too, but. Yeah.
And it's a very pivotal moment. And it got me as a individual. I was like, oh, I'd be crushed. Was that something you guys just like, let's throw this in there? Or was that like Bobcat was like, it has to go this way?
No, I think so. The idea of the failed proposal is the idea. And then it's the words that he lets us create. So yes, so much of that was ad-libbed, but as long as he gets the idea of like, okay, this is a scene about, Bryce, you're going to propose, and Alexi, you're going to turn him down, and let's see what happens, and so that's really how those scenes operate. And then me and Alexi sort of just, start doing the thing, whatever that means. There's a lot of this movie, a good portion of it, which is really just Alexi and I sort of ad-libbing off of each other because, fortunately, we really sort of matched our characters quite well. Jim is the name of my character. I'm sort of really this guy who's like,
you seem like you're close to Jim. Yeah.
I'm pretty close to Jim.
Yeah.
Alexi's pretty close to Alexi, her character in the film. So it worked out well. We were able to have those conversations about this phenomenon that felt real.
Right now, Amazon is offering some amazing extra perks that come with a job offer. If you start a warehouse job, you can get a $1,000 sign-on bonus. That means you start earning a paycheck right away, plus you get extra cash to use before the holidays. Applying is so easy, you don't even need an interview. It's never been so rewarding to start an hourly job that's close to home. So what are you waiting for? To join the team today, visit Amazon.com/sign-on bonus. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
This holiday, whether you're making a Kroger Simple Truth Turkey for 40 or a Murray's Baked Brie for 2, Kroger has fast, fresh delivery and free pickup, so you can make holiday meals that bring you all together to create memories that last. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Restrictions may apply.
Get more ways to save at the Buy 5 or More Save $1 each sale. Just buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Oh, you're going to make me look up the editor and now her character name. I'll let the Bigfoot Society fans do that.
That's true. Yeah, you guys put it in the comments on YouTube or something like that, guys. Did anything weird happen to you guys? Because the thing people have to realize is that you're going actually out into the area where the Patterson-Gimlin film site is. There's a possibility that you could run into things like, you know, Bigfoot out there when you're filming. Did anything weird like that happen, or is it pretty uneventful?
Well, no, you know, being at Louse Camp at night and then having them do those knocks and those sounds, I was like, God, what are we doing? Like, what are we
playing with fire?
Like, what are we inviting into camp? You know, fortunately, no incidents happened. One of our photographers, Evan, our cinematographer, he did say he heard something run through the camp in the middle of the night. I'm not sure what that was. And there was one time, when it was daytime, and it's that scene where Alexi and I enter where a car can go no further as we're about to travel to the trail of the Patterson-Gimlin film site. We were actually there. We didn't hike all the way in, but we did that scene right at that place where there's the car bar.
Oh, wow.
And as we're filming, I just felt like this intense, like, we shouldn't be here. Like something was watching me from behind. Something was watching me from behind. And I just got really antsy about it. And I kind of was like, okay, we got the scene. Let's get the hell out of here. I don't feel good, you know? But I have a feeling that we were being watched. Yeah.
Potentially it could have been, you know, it's hard to say. It could be an infrasound type deal. It's all sorts of things that could have been. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
Who knows? It's that sixth sense of something's watching.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly. Now you've been able to go back to that area after the film. Like you have been able to return, correct?
Yes. Oh my God. So, I mean, talking about what we're talking about, fast forward however many years later, and, you know, I guess 11 or 12 years later, and I would return to the actual Patterson-Gimlin film site with LiDAR expert Pete Kelsey and actually, you know, scan the place, which is just monumental in its own right. And so it's the way that it's sort of come full circle for me is not lost on me. I really appreciate and it's just it's such a trip to like how much this subject has influenced my life, you know.
Did you notice where was the town much different than the first time you were there? Did you notice different things? Had things changed? Anything of that nature?
You know, the town is always sort of still just self-surviving quite well, and not much had changed in the years, and hopefully it continues to do so, because I think it's a real jewel in the state of California, one that people should go visit as they're passing through this great state. So, you know, it's a place that does look forward to the occasional tourist coming by and eating the food and getting the books at Bigfoot Books and seeing the place. It's a great place. So, yeah, Willow Creek is not just a fictional place in the movie. It's an actual town that you can go to. It's the gateway to Bigfoot country.
No doubt. It's, you know, one day I will be able to, I'm going to go there myself. It's on my list, you know, it's on the list. I got the first expedition out of the way this summer, and, you know, it's a little bit of a trek from Iowa out to California, but I'll make it out there somehow someday. So,
well, it'll be worth it. I remember driving on those narrow roads, trying to film these scenes as I'm doing so. And then looking down 300 feet and then looking up 100 feet at these giant sequoias that surmount all depth below and above, you know, and you're just like, oh my God, you know, it's where they filmed the great Star Wars scene in the
That's true. Return of the Jedi.
It's such a magical place, you know.
That brings up a question I wanted to ask you. So the scenes, there's a lot of scenes where you're driving around. So in those scenes, you're actually there's not another guy in the car. There's not a cameraman. It's literally you're holding it. And you said while you're driving at some points?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because Bobcat wanted it to be authentic. And as a matter of fact, the camera we used we bought 3 of them in a Best Buy. and we wanted them to be consumer grade. We wanted it to feel like, you know, it was just these people going out. And our cinematographer is a guy named Evan. I think he was studying astronomy out of the Jet Propulsion Lab or Cal State or something. Anyway, he knew a lot about cameras and whatever, but great guy. And anyway, so he would sort of set the settings and then hand me the camera, and I would place it in the truck or hold it while I was talking or give it to Alexi. And, you know, so we wanted it to everything to feel like it's so basic. I'm the cameraman most of the time. It's, you know, and even in that great last shot where I'm getting attacked and the camera's moving, that's me screaming my own death and then grabbing the camera and then shaking and then carefully walking back.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering because it's like it's supposed to look like you're being dragged away. It's wild.
I had a lot of fun being like, you know, my own cameraman because I used to do that with my friends when I first moved out to Los Angeles. So it felt very authentic to be doing it. But yeah, we only had that one and we never broke it. So it was that camera the whole time.
Wow.
And the whole movie is shot on that.
And it's a good thing you didn't break it because out there, it would have been quite an interesting trip to get a new camera. You'd have to go all the way back to civilization. You know, from what I hear, it's, you know, once you get to Willow Creek, you're not close to any other civilization.
Yeah, no. Well, we were pretty self-sufficient at that point, so we set out to accomplish a task. And oh man, there's a lot of stories and obstacles along the way, but we got it done. You know.
I've talked to some people about the movie. Is there like a set in stone? You know, okay, this is gonna get into spoiler territory. So if you're trying to get at spoiler territory, this is your warning.
Oh yeah.
So at the end. You know, obviously bad stuff goes down, real bad stuff goes down. It leads you to believe that. So your character definitely dies at the end of Willow Creek. Like, is that the story from Bobcat? Like Bryce's character?
That's open-ended. That's one of the great things about Willow Creek is it's really left up to the audience member to determine the fate of not only both characters, but to the creatures as well. So it's left open-ended, and I'm so thankful for that because as an audience member, so often the endings are kind of shoved down our throats, and we're forced to digest them. This sort of allows your own interpretation, and I like that.
It's also I'll say if you're, you know, when you watch the movie, pay attention to little details in each scene because those may come into play to help you figure out the end or give extra meaning to the end. There's a few things there's at least one thing on a wall that'll help you figure out what's going on at the end. That's my interpretation anyways. So yeah. Let's talk about Bigfoot for a bit. And
sure.
I love talking to, you know, the people I interview specifically about Bigfoot. And, you know, with this program, I talk to all ends of, you know, I talk to people who believe, you know, in paranormal Bigfoot or, you know, believe in the woo, or we've got, you know, maybe more flesh and blood camp, you know, that think we're looking at undiscovered gray ape. But I'm really curious, you know, someone asks you, okay, Bryce, what do you think we're looking at when we talk about the creature Bigfoot? How are you describing what we're looking at? What do you think we've got going on?
Well, you know, I think it's for me, it's something that changes over time. And, you know, I've tried to come at this from just about every angle I can. Okay. I don't think I've left anything on the table. I've looked at the paranormal side. I've looked at the flesh and blood side. I've looked at the psychological archetype side. I've looked at all of them, and the bottom line is that there is a phenomenon at play here on this planet, and people are witnessing and experiencing something that's more than just misidentification, hoax, or hallucination. But, you know, I don't want to dodge your question here. I tell you, you know, I think I'm leaning more these days on the psychological aspect of the Bigfoot phenomenon. And And I know that's probably going to ruffle a few feathers, but I don't mind because, you know, the great psychologist Carl Jung had no problem with the idea of psychic manifestation through the conscious or the subconscious. And I think us as a human species have been dealing with archetypes so primordial for so long, and things have concretized in that sense that that it wouldn't surprise me that might help explain what so many people across so many different areas and so many different times are experiencing. And you start to have to ask yourself at some point, can there really be this many subspecies of unconfirmed wood apes roaming the vast landscapes of planet Earth? It's possible. I do believe that if these creatures exist, that they're super intelligent, super shy, reclusive. I have no problem. And I've spoken with biologists and naturalists who have no problem with these creatures going by themselves, you know, avoiding mankind. It's possible. I know a lot of people have a problem with that, but I don't. But, you know, it's hard to eliminate a different thing when I'm talking to witnesses who have such a physical experience, you know. So I wrestle with it, you know, but let me tell you something. This is the fun thing about Bigfoot. I don't really care if I have an answer, and I don't care where my thinking takes me, because look, if we're ever going to get to the bottom of this mystery, you know, I think that we really need to start looking at these aspects of what it is that we're projecting out into these dark spaces, like the wooded forest. Not only that, but what are we projecting out into the outer space? This image of this gray alien, anthropomorphic, skinny, you know, what are we mirroring here? You know, so there's a lot of psychological components to the alien phenomenon and the Bigfoot phenomenon. And here we are somewhere in the middle. You know, we're not quite wild man of the woods, and yet we're not quite spacefaring spaceship pilots. You know, we're here in the middle, you know, and yet we're pulling from these archetypes. We're pulling from the past. We're pulling from the future.
Wow.
And they manifest, Jeremiah. They manifest as real as I could reach out and touch, like the doubter Thomas did to Jesus. You know, you can reach out and touch the damn thing, you know, and you would doubt no more. That doesn't make it unconfirmed North American wood ape.
That's a very, very interesting answer. I like it. That's you know, I can say that is in a way that has never been. I've never gotten that answer before in the 3 years I've done this podcast, and that's pretty cool. I like that. You know, listeners would be upset with me if I didn't ask some questions about, you know, specifically about Expedition Bigfoot. That's what a lot of people are going to know you from that show. You know, being involved with the show, I want to say, multiple seasons now. Over these last seasons, was there a time where, you know, things got really serious for you? You were, you know, maybe filming it. You know, you're out there, you're doing, getting some footage, and you experience something. You're like, wow, this is getting really intense. What was there a time that comes to mind where, you know, just things got a little bit intense during the filming of that show?
Oh, absolutely. There's been multiple times. The time that sort of jumped to mind was when I was traveling through this corridor at night in Washington, and I hear that, and I just see a lot of young fawns, deers running through this cleared. I think it was a third cut on a patch of timber. So really short trees. They look like little Christmas trees. And you could just see the deers jumping in and around this acreage. But it was when I heard one of these deers get sort of grabbed and make this guttural sound.
Oh, boy.
And I heard something run off with the deer. Now, I'm not saying a bear couldn't do that, nor a mountain lion. They could do that. But the time and the veracity of which it was done, it felt unnatural to me. And so I don't know. And you know, look, we have another season coming up for our fans of Expedition Bigfoot
Nice.
that we filmed in Alaska.
Wow.
And you know, we put our blood, sweat, and tears in that one because, you know, it's just a dangerous place, as you will see. So you're always sort of, that's in the back of your mind. Your safety is concerned.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And the thing about Alaska, it's like, it's almost like you go into a place like that and it's like gloves are off, that you could really get messed up in a area like that, you know.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there was a little list of injuries that came about, and
wow.
Yeah, it was a tough place, but I can't wait we just encountered some incredible stuff, and I spoke with some incredible individuals, and I'm so excited for the fans to see this next season.
It's just crazy. I would love to know, like the minds behind the show. You get some crazy locations to go to. I wish I could be a fly on the wall when it's like, oh, we got to go here next, and, you know, figure out how to do that. That'd just be so cool. Like, you know, you go into Alaska next, and I'm sure there'll be even more seasons. Who knows where you'll be going after that? But
well, there's like, you know, I got to tell you, there's no shortage. There's no shortage of potential places to go.
True.
And it's funny, when I started podcasting about the paranormal 5 years ago, I one of the concerns I said to my co-host Michael was, hey, are we going to run out of stuff to talk about of high strangeness?
Right.
And he fortuitously said, no, we're good. And he was right, that the list just keeps going on and on and on of the strange and mysterious things that take place on planet Earth.
You know, let's hit a question for our Bigfoot Collector Club fans. Is there an episode that you've done over the years that, you know, has been do you have any favorite episodes from over the years of that show? Maybe interviews you've done or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I think hitting the 100th episode benchmark was pretty monumental. And we had a great guest, Paul Scheer, who's a hilarious comedian. And he came on and he was just so open with us. And he had some paranormal encounter stories of his own. And we did the story of high strangeness about Betty and Barney Hill, really the first case of alien abduction that sparked a wildfire amongst news media.
Do you have any, you know, maybe we can talk about, it's come up a few times. Do you have any thoughts about our current state of, you know, UAPs, UFOs, aliens? Is that something you keep up to date with, or how do you view what's going on in the field with all that stuff?
Well, of course, I'm very interested in all things strange, and that includes the UFO UAP phenomena. And look, I'll say this: I think a lot of people are looking in the direction of hardware craft, you know. But I might say, you know, maybe slow down a bit. You know, we've been dealing with this phenomenon for maybe more than 100 years, going back how long? Centuries, thousands of years. What are these things, and do they really necessarily come from somewhere else? Now, again, you know, we're still not fully aware of what the human mind is capable of. And there's a lot of things about the UFO phenomenon, and I'm talking about contactee experience, the alien abduction phenomenon, downloads, all different kinds of aspects to this phenomenon, that when you look at all of these pieces very closely, it doesn't hold water that these little beings are traveling in tin cans from Zeta Reticuli to probe us anally. It doesn't make sense. And why should it? Something else is going on here. And I believe that something involves us. I'm talking about humans and just what we're capable of. The subconscious mind, the conscious mind. You know, we are creators of things unknown, and we put our mind into those dark spaces and allow it to fester and to build and to manifest. And I wouldn't be all too surprised if what we're experiencing in the UFO UAP phenomenon is really, and has always been, just coming from us.
That is very interesting. And I think there's definitely some merit to what you're saying. It feels like, you know, what we focus on as a culture, we focus more and more on it. Maybe that starts to show up. For, you know, an example it feels like there's this huge focus in the cryptid community about Dogman all of a sudden. And lo and behold, more Dogman stuff comes out of nowhere. Like, it used to not be there around, and now it's like we're all focusing on Dogman. Hey, guess what? Dogman reports everywhere. Land Between the Lakes, all that good stuff. It's wild. I think, you know, one of my favorite theories I hear is that, you know, the UFOs are us from the future coming back to visit. I mean, that's wild, but dude, I don't know, maybe.
It's like I was saying earlier, we're pulling these images, whether from the future or from the past. So whether we're pulling them from ourselves from the future, or whether we're pulling them from the past from ourselves, it's just us. It's always just us, you know? And look, I want to put a caveat here. I'm not saying that there's not life on other planets. Impossible, I say. It's a mathematical certainty the universe is so big. But are they really traveling here in their light ships to interfere with us and to toy around our nuclear sites? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. That's a thing that always gets me, Bryce, is that, you know, they seem to show up around important events in history where we could just utterly annihilate ourselves. That's weird, man. Like around, you know, missiles don't work. It's very, very strange, but we've made it so far through all this. So fingers crossed for the next part, I guess.
Yeah, but, there does seem to be this urgent need to stop us from self-destruction. Yeah. Now, again, is that coming from some overseer, some galactic council who is sort of babysitting our planet? Perhaps. Or is that coming from us as a collective species, knowing what we're inherently capable of, because we already detonated an atomic bomb so devastating that would only take a couple of them to destroy ourselves over and over and over? How can that not enter the human psyche? Absolutely. You know, so you know, we have to sort of grapple with the psychology of these phenomenons that we're dealing with. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't some sentient other perhaps controlling or you know, infesting this phenomenon. Let's say it's not maybe just us. I'll add that. But so it's a mystery, and as you can see, I just love it. And look, I don't want to offend anybody saying, oh, these things aren't real and UFOs aren't real, because I do believe they're real. I do. I speak to people who believe they're real, and I'm just trying to figure out for myself what is real.
There you go. At the end of it, it's, you know, we're trying to figure out the answers. It's what I try to do with this. It sounds like it's what, you know, you guys are trying to do over at Bigfoot Collectors Club for sure. As you know, before we start to wrap things up, you know, the term Bigfoot Collectors Club, do you have an interesting Bigfoot collection to yourself? Any cool things you've collected over the years, or books in a collection at all? Or
yeah, man. Well, I'm a collector, and that name originally came from, we wanted to sort of talk about Bigfoot and then show our collection of toys. You know, because we collect action figures and books and all kinds of stuff, but you know, what it ended up being is sort of collecting stories about this wonderful phenomenon that takes on so many different guises and disguises and likes to reveal itself in different ways. And you know, our podcast is not one where we take ourselves too seriously. We have a lot of fun. We consider it a comedy podcast because if you can't laugh at this stuff, sometimes I think you'll just go crazy. And so give yourself permission. give yourself plenty of permission not to take this stuff too seriously. But at the same time, take it very seriously, because it's that mystery in life that gives us that verve,
Helps. It helps you get through every day. A little mystery keeps you going for sure. Bryce, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a really fun chat about Willow Creek, Expedition Bigfoot, and all that stuff. Do you mind, sharing if people are wanting to keep up to date best with what you're doing? How can they follow you different ways?
Well, I'd love to. And I first just want to say thank you, Jeremiah, for having me on the Bigfoot Society podcast. I really admire what you guys are doing over there. And
thanks.
And it's a great honor. And you can find me on socials at Instagram. I'm at Bryce O. Johnson, at Mr. Bryce Johnson, and on Twitter at Bryce O. Johnson. You can find Bigfoot Collectors Club wherever you get your podcasts, and look for Expedition Bigfoot on the Discovery Plus app. Or Travel Channel, as it will come out this next year with our new season in Alaska. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on, Bryce.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Bigfoot Society. Any content provided by our guests are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone. Thank you.
You own a business? You're on a journey. You own a business in 2022? Wow Business knows that journey just got a whole lot more interesting. You might close a sale like this, or like this, and you need to connect with your team.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Is my camera on?
Can you hear me? Can everybody go on mute?
Without even leaving home. And if you're excited to keep your business moving, head to switch-to-wowbusiness.com to learn about fast internet speeds, 24/7 US-based support, a price lock guarantee, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and an offer you don't want to miss.
For a limited time, fall into savings with 1 gig of business internet for the incredibly low price of only $99.99. We'll even throw in 4 months of free service, free installation, and a free modem to help make the switch easier. Learn more at switch-to-wowbusiness.com.
Offer for new customers with a 2-year agreement subject to change. Prices do not include taxes, fees, and equipment charges. Restrictions apply. Switch to wowbusiness.com.
Right now, Amazon is offering some amazing extra perks that come with a job offer. If you start a warehouse job, you can get a $1,000 sign-on bonus. That means you start earning a paycheck right away, plus you get extra cash to use before the holidays. Applying is so easy, you don't even need an interview. It's never been so rewarding to start an hourly job that's close to home. So what are you waiting for? To join the team today, visit Amazon.com/sign-on bonus. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.